Welcome to Save As Ability, a podcast to educate and inform you about disability employment issues. My name is David D'Arcangelo, and I'm your disability policy expert.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back for another episode of Save As Ability. It's great to be back with you. David D'Arcangelo. Another year of Save As Ability coming up. We've got some great guests lined up for you. We've got a great guest today, but before we get to Chris, I do want to ask if you continue to help us grow by liking, subscribing, commenting, sharing. All of that really does help us keep great content flowing for you. So again, we've got a guest today, Chris Maher.
Hello,
Welcome
David.
in, Chris.
Good to see you, my friend, and a pleasure to be with you. Hope you had a good holiday and a happy new year.
Yes, thank you. And I know we've been trying to do this episode. So, Chris, it's great to have you. Chris is the head of Samaritan Partners, which is a great venture capital type of disability supporting agency, kind of unique. I think you're going to explain that to us, Chris. Tell us a little bit about yourself as well, and we'll jump right in, Chris.
Thank
I'll turn
you,
it over to
David.
you.
So, I founded Samaritan Partners a couple of years ago, which is a public benefit venture capital fund. And our focus is investing in startups for profit that are focused on the disability sector. So companies that are either building products, services, assistive tech to improve the lives of people with disabilities or creating employment opportunities. And my background prior to starting the fund, I actually have an operational background. So I spent 25 years as an operator and multi-time CEO. That was largely in venture-backed companies. And then in parallel to that, for the last 22 years, my wife and I have raised two beautiful daughters, both of whom live with disabilities. My oldest daughter, who's 22, has a physical disability, and my youngest daughter, who's 19, has intellectual and developmental disabilities. And that's kind of me in a snapshot.
Well, thanks for letting us know that. We appreciate your lived experience as a caretaker, as a father. And really, I think what we've seen over time is the evolution, right? The disability rights movement was really owned by people with disabilities in every way. All the leaders of the organizations were people with disabilities, all the things they worked on with So it's refreshing to now the next generation. I think you're part of that next generation of you've had this great private sector capital experience, and you're bringing that now into use for people with disabilities. I think you can see that transitioning happening in the disability community. But tell us a little bit about your fund. There are some unique features of it, right? I think you're one of the first to do what you're doing.
It's a great point, David. And I think historically, when people think of the disability community, I think they largely think of nonprofits and charity and local and federal government. And that's great. And I know you've had a role in the government side of things. And that's wonderful, but there are limitations to how much those groups can really elevate the community to where it needs to get to. And so I believe there is a unique opportunity for private capital to come into this part of the market, which historically has not been there. It has not looked to, early stage innovation around inclusive and human-centered design as it relates to disability. And so there's a handful of us that are VCs, that is venture capital funds, that are kind of exclusively focused on disability or a specific area of disability. But hopefully that number is growing. And we're part of what I think we're all trying to do as venture investors within the disability sector is not only are we, focused on delivering a great financial return for our investors and our fund, delivering a great social return, which is, hopefully improving the lives of millions of people with disability. But also, at least for Samaritan, a part of what we're focused on is attracting new private capital that hasn't looked at this sector historically as an opportunity for profit investment. And we've started to see that. And because there is an amazing amount of early stage innovation that's happening right now in assistive tech, disability tech, age tech, which overlaps with disability. So I think it's early in the curve, but it's a really exciting time. And I think we've got a lot of momentum going into 2026. And as it relates then.
Well, I was just going to say that innovation to me is the most intriguing part, because we've seen over time, for whether it's Alexander Graham Bell, whether it's, the escalator or the elevator, or, all these other things that were originally conceived to bring access for people with disabilities, then spread to the larger market. Now, all of a sudden, you do have a product that's not niche and you can go to scale and bring money in for your investors.
And I think you're spot on. I mean, there is technology and products and services around us in our everyday lives that were originally designed and intended for people with disability, but ultimately ended up being great for the general population. And that typically is what you see when you design and build for communities and people at the edges. It usually ends up being good for the people in the general population. The opposite of that, though, is usually not true. When you build for the middle, it tends not to be very good for the edges. And so what I'm seeing from an innovation standpoint is that whole concept of universal or inclusive design, human-centered design, kind of pick the term that you want to use. But when you start with that and you include the customer or the end user or the community in that process, when they have a seat at the table, you end up building better products and service for your customers. And that's not just for the disability community. That's just good business, right? That's just good business.
That's right. That's right. And we've had a little bit of a prelude here. We're going to have a guest coming up, Dahlia Shaywitz, in a future episode, but her and Michelle Yin produced that report that indicates the buying power of people with disabilities. It's in the billions. And, depending upon what measure, I mean, what company wouldn't want to pick up 10% market share or 12% market share or whatever metric you wanted to use of the entire disability
100%.
community, right? So, all right, but tell us about some of the winners you have here, because you're working with some great organizations that you funded and, you're seeing results already.
And thank you for asking. So maybe a couple or a few of the companies in the portfolio companies we've already invested in. One that comes to mind very quickly is a company called Be My Eyes, which is a company that supports the blind, low vision community. And they've built an app for the community that's a combination of technology. You know it very well. Technology, data, AI, and human kindness. And so they've got, I think, upwards of 1 million people from the blind, low vision community that are using their app on a regular basis. They have 10 million volunteers globally that are supporting that community. And then they also have AI, which when you don't want to call on a human to assist you, you can just call on the AI version of their app, which will interpret or translate what the camera on your phone is looking at or viewing. What's also really cool about that company is they're now taking their technology and integrating it into like the technology stack of contact and call centers of corporations to better serve their blind customers. And then they're also integrating it into wearables, which is really cool. So they have a relationship with Meta with their smart glasses, those Ray-Bans. And I think for the first time, the blind community can have truly hands-free accessibility. So if you're wearing the Meta glasses, you just say, "Hey, Meta, call Be My Eyes," and bingo, the first volunteer that's available is now looking through your glasses and helping you to wayfind or navigate.
Help describe what's going on.
It's really, really cool. So that's one example. There's another company that we've invested in for the deaf, hard of hearing community, which is using technology, data, AI, in a very human-looking avatar, where they've created real-time bidirectional ASL interpretation and translation. So if you and I are on this call today, we could have this, it's called SignSpeak is the company. We could have their avatar on the screen with us. And if I was deaf and when you speak, the avatar would give me a real-time ASL interpretation of what you're saying. And then when I sign back to you, it's going to give you real-time audio or captioning. We're at a moment in time where, because of things like AI and other technology and how it's advancing so quickly, we have an opportunity where leveraging those things the right way can have a profoundly positive impact on the lives of people with disability and giving them more autonomy and independence and inclusion. Really, honestly, I think it can be a great equalizer and can level the playing field, whether it's in terms of just going about your daily tasks in your life, employment, economic opportunity, et cetera. So I think it's a really exciting time. And I think that at the corporate level, you're seeing some large corporations, and this is really important in terms of the acceleration and adoption of things like inclusive design and human-centered design. Large corporates like the Microsofts and the Apples and the Amazon of the world are really leaning into accessibility. And it's no longer the compliance checkbox. And I think it's moving away from, well, it's the right thing to do. And it's moving away from it's the right thing to do because they're now realizing, and David, you and I have talked about this, is that it's good for business. It's good for our bottom line. We are opening ourselves up to a larger part of the market. Like the disability community globally is in the neighborhood of 1.5 billion with a B people. It's 1 in 6 people globally. It's 1 in 4 adults in the US. It's a large part of your customer base or your potential customer base. So I'm super excited about the early stage innovation that's happening around assistive tech and disability tech and AI, and how those are being developed and accelerated, not only for the benefit of the disability community, but as we talked before, it's going to end up being good for everybody, right? I think there are a number of new things that are on the horizon that are going to be similar to curb cuts, or maybe today's version of curb cuts, which is the caption effect, right? I don't watch anything without captions anymore. And there are so many other examples, speech to text. My youngest daughter who has IDD, like she really would have a hard time emailing and texting people if she had to type it all out, but she does it all via speech to text. I use it a ton myself, and I don't have a disability. So I think I see more and more examples.
Just like you use the automatic door opener or the escalator or the keep going down with more examples. You're right, Chris. I know. As we begin to conclude here, why don't you give our viewers and listeners an opportunity to contact you and, all the great things you got going on, whether they want to get involved with the fund or maybe they know somebody with a great idea.
Great.
How do they do
you,
that?
David. Appreciate it. So certainly can email me at chris@samaritanpartners.com. That's probably the easiest way. You can always find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active there. We also have a website. So just samaritanpartners.com, and you can find out all the information about the fund, our investments, how we approach things. And then like you, I've got a little podcast on the side, which you and I have talked about getting you on there. And that's called Investing in Accessibility. And that's all about the intersection of accessibility, entrepreneurship, and impact investing. And so those are the ways that people can find me and what we're doing at Samaritan.
All right, that's terrific, Chris. Well, we appreciate you, all you're doing for the disability community here, really innovating. And, it's tough when you do something unique and getting it going, but you've managed to do it. I'm trying to do that with Archangel Communications. So I appreciate you, what you're doing. We thank you. Anything else as we conclude
big thanks
here?
to you, David. And I'm so grateful that our mutual friend Cliff connected you and I. What was it? Maybe a little over a year ago. And
yeah, I think it was. Yeah,
we've become
Dartmouth
fast
connection.
friends, and the work you've done is just so impressive and inspiring. And you've been working in this space a lot longer than me. And thank you for all that you've done. So the feelings are mutual there. And I think the last thing in my big takeaway, or not takeaway, but what I truly feel as we're heading into 2026 here, I just feel like it's a moment in time where we probably have the best opportunity, if we stick together and work together, to really create a world that is much more inclusive and much more accessible for a lot more of us versus just some of us. So I'm really excited to hopefully play a small part in that. And, that job will never be done, but we have an opportunity to really accelerate that for a lot more people here, I think, in the very near future.
I think that's right, Chris, and we're on the same page there. And really, it is a time of innovation. So as much disruption and angst that we've seen coming out of COVID and all that, and, everything's like the new world order is changing and, all of that, the greater economy, so many things are changing. I view that as opportunity. I know you do as well. And yeah, I think for people with disability, most people are running now away from inclusion. Yeah. I'm running towards it for people with disabilities. Agreed. So I know you are as well. Well, Chris, thanks again. Great guest, Chris Maher. Thank you all for joining us. It's David D'Arcangelo, another episode of Save Visibility, and I hope you have a great day.
For more information about disability employment issues, please visit our website, disabilityemploymentsolutions.com. The Save As Ability podcast is available on Apple Podcast, Spotify, our YouTube channel at Disability Policy Expert, or wherever you stream your podcasts. Subscribe, stream, rate, and review our shows. Your ratings and reviews help our show reach new audiences. Produced by Pod Pro Entertainment. Save As Ability lives within a network of podcasts located at podproentertainment.com. #TheNewRadio. Again, my name is David Darkangelo, and I'm your disability policy expert. Until next time, thank you. I hope you have a great day.